Great read for all female readers, offering insights into physiological, psychological, and emotional aspects that many women might not be aware of. Dr. Holland guides women to understand their bodies and emotional fluctuations, including the pros and cons of medications they might be taking, the direct relationship between food and emotions, and she even discusses sexual health, physical exercise, and the realities of sleep. After reading it, I recommended the book to my wife. It's full of useful knowledge and advice that helped me understand her better. The book covers a lot of information, so it's best to read it in parts. For those who find it interesting, I definitely recommend reading it yourself. Differences in emotional perception between men and women. Men need clear signals to understand our unease, while women can detect sadness in others 90% of the time from subtle cues. Men are better at identifying emotions like anger and aggression. However, when it comes to sensing if their partner is upset, they are only about 40% accurate. Flipping a coin might give them a better chance of guessing correctly. Women's sensitivity, mental and physical. Our bodies are more sensitive to pain than men's. Solid scientific evidence shows that women have a lower pain threshold and feel pain more intensely, with less tolerance for lab-induced pain. This increased sensitivity is due to the characteristics of women's nervous systems, especially the more active insular cortex in the brain, making them more aware of bodily discomfort and pain. Our bodies have more serotonin receptors to process pain. Hormones like estrogen and progesterone also affect how endorphins and opioid receptors work, making our sense of pain more acute. During different phases of the menstrual cycle, women's sensitivity to pain varies. Just before menstruation, women are not only more sensitive to the words and actions of those around them but also to their own sensations of pain. Why do emotions tend to explode on schedule? Estrogen can make you more attractive, radiate maternal charm, and become more tolerant, all traits that can fascinate men. This happens because the egg is developing and maturing, signaling that you're ready for ovulation. Estrogen, being a stress hormone, can make all minor problems seem insignificant. The second half of the menstrual cycle is the luteal phase, starting from when the egg leaves the follicle and lasting until menstruation, about 2 weeks. During this phase, women often experience more emotional changes. Progesterone levels rise and estrogen levels drop. Progesterone can make you feel lethargic and irritable, peaking around the 21st day of the cycle. Just before menstruation, estrogen levels rapidly and noticeably drop, making you less inclined to be friendly. There are always a few days every month when women can become unsociable. And it's all due to the drop in estrogen and the rise in progesterone levels. Welcome to the world of premenstrual syndrome, PMS. It's normal to be tearful, irritable, feel overwhelmed, undervalued, crave chocolate, or want to curl up on the couch and not move as menstruation approaches. The drop in estrogen leads to a sudden decrease in serotonin levels, 5-hydroxytryptamine, a few days before menstruation, which causes PMS. Conditions like depression, panic disorder, and obsessive-compulsive disorder are linked to lower serotonin levels, so feeling a bit like 1 or even 3 mental disorder patients before your period is not unusual. Typical PMS usually starts 3 or 4 days before menstruation, but some patients I've met only begin to experience PMS symptoms a day or 2 after ovulation. They become extremely depressed, feeling hopeless and even despairing. They are prone to arguments with family and colleagues, struggle with insomnia or restless sleep, feel physically bloated, and are emotionally volatile. Tracking your menstrual cycle not only helps you understand your ovulation period, but also reminds you of when you might become more emotionally sensitive. When women fall in love, their brains enter a state that can be likened to a person who is addicted, obsessed, and even a bit delusional. This intense emotional state makes it challenging to distinguish whether the affection is for the person themselves or merely for the physical attraction. The transition from being attracted to someone to developing a deep emotional attachment is a complex process that involves both physical and emotional factors. A key player in this process is dopamine, a chemical that stimulates feelings of excitement, pleasure, and a desire for reward. When a woman falls in love, dopamine levels surge, creating a strong craving and dependency on the burgeoning affection. This specific individual becomes a significant focus due to dopamine's effect, marking them as an important figure in the woman's life. The aftermath of a breakup often involves intense emotional reactions like crying, oversleeping, overeating, and sometimes resorting to alcohol. Interestingly, when a couple gets back together, the brain releases chemicals that soothe the mood and reinforce the belief that they are destined to be together. The emotional roller coaster of being in love involves alternating feelings of pain when separated from the loved one and immense joy and excitement upon reunion. This state of constant emotional stimulation explains why many women in love might find themselves losing weight, engaging in more physical activity, or experiencing sleeplessness. In some cases, women with depression have reported an ability to cease using antidepressants and a reduced need for therapy while in a romantic relationship. This improvement is attributed to the elevated levels of dopamine and other hormones that love triggers. Interestingly, during the phase of falling in love, women's bodies react by increasing dopamine and consequently testosterone levels. This increase can also be stimulated by inhaling male pheromones. The person they are romantically involved with can significantly affect their hormonal balance. In a fascinating contrast, men in love tend to have lower testosterone levels than usual, possibly reducing their sexual drive to ensure they do not intimidate their partners. As a result, in a romantic relationship, while the woman's testosterone levels rise, the man's levels tend to decrease. This hormonal change creates a sort of chemical unity, balancing and harmonizing the sexual desires of both partners, leading to a more synchronized and emotionally connected relationship. Embrace, don't medicate, the role of oxytocin in love. Oxytocin can give your emotions a boost. Ever felt incredibly relaxed while holding your baby? Or the happiness of being tightly hugged after reaching a climax? That's oxytocin at work, a hormone that enhances emotional bonds and trust. Just a 20-second hug can release oxytocin in your body. Friendly interactions, like smiling back when someone smiles at you, also trigger oxytocin release. The smiles of babies, a boyfriend's hug, these not only stimulate oxytocin secretion but also activate dopamine-related brain feedback loops, encouraging us to repeat these behaviors. So, in the first half of your menstrual cycle, before estrogen levels start to decline, you're more likely to socialize or start a romantic relationship. Experiments have shown that people injected with oxytocin are more likely to trust strangers and even lend a helping hand. Those more easily influenced by others' words also tend to be more helpful and committed, perhaps for the same reason. This also means falling in love can be risky for some. Obsession can overpower logic. When oxytocin levels are high, you might become forgetful and unable to think systematically. Love can also dispel anxiety and doubts. Oxytocin is particularly effective in reducing fear and anxiety, thereby enhancing relationships, from love to sex. When people are in love, the brain circuits that handle fear function less, so the critical thinking system, anterior cingulated cortex, and fear center, amygdala, are less active. It's best to stay level-headed when in love because your ability to reason isn't normal, you're not your usual self. A method to judge if a man is right for you. The author advises her patients to stop taking oral contraceptives and gradually discontinue antidepressants while dating. If selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors make you lose interest or stop you from sizing up the opposite sex, transitioning from attraction to infatuation and then to attachment becomes difficult. Love and mating rely on sexual attraction and capability. If selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors reduce your libido and dull your sexual sensitivity, it undoubtedly negatively impacts the entire brain's information processing. The nervous system related to attachment and intimacy also depends on orgasms and the large amounts of oxytocin they release. Difficulty in achieving orgasm from these inhibitors can disrupt the stimulation response for women. Judging if a man is right for them and their future children can involve seeing how much time and effort he invests in their pleasure. Scientists believe that the variable nature of women's orgasms has evolved to help women distinguish between Mr. Right and Mr. Right Now. A man who is willing to invest more time and effort to satisfy a woman could also be a good husband and more willing to share everything, a good guy, not a bad boy. Women try to reach orgasm with their partners and then decide if they are suitable. This process happens subconsciously. If taking selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, it's almost impossible for women to reach orgasm, so this method of judgment no longer exists. If you were only slightly interested in a man, but your feelings for him deepened after he brought you to orgasm, it's not surprising. A dopamine surge lowers the threshold for sensations, allowing the brain to feel more pleasure. Who wouldn't want multiple orgasms? As we wrap up today's session, let's reflect on the fascinating journey we've taken through the emotional and hormonal worlds of women in love. We delved into the captivating realm of oxytocin, the love hormone, understanding how it enhances our emotions and bonds, and even the simple act of a 20-second hug can trigger its release. We explored how dopamine, another key player, influences our feelings of attraction and infatuation, marking our loved ones as significant in our lives. We also discussed the changes women experience in their menstrual cycle, highlighting how these hormonal fluctuations affect our emotions, from increased sensitivity to pain to shifts in our ability to connect and fall in love. Moreover, we uncovered the surprising ways our bodies and minds react when we're in love, from the reduction of fear and anxiety to changes in our critical thinking abilities. We even touched on the topic of how antidepressants and contraceptives can impact a woman's natural response to romantic attraction and sexual pleasure. In conclusion, the intricate dance of hormones and emotions in a woman's life is a complex, yet utterly fascinating subject. It's a reminder of how our bodies and minds are intricately connected, influencing how we perceive, feel, and respond to the world around us, especially in matters of the heart. Thank you for joining me in this enlightening exploration of the emotional landscape of women in love. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you, and I hope they have offered a deeper understanding of the intricate ways our emotions and bodies interact, especially in the realm of love and relationships.